moving on to,
Yeah.
my now home country, fam, Russia.
Well,
Um,
Koki Smurf was denied entry into NATO while we were gone. I just want to point that out because we were in Brazil when it happened. But please, yes, go right ahead.
so Koki Smurf, yes, he was denied entry into NATO for the sake of the world, right? Because you guys know that if Ukraine became a part of NATO, then that wouldn't just be Ukraine Russia anymore, even though it's Russia NATO, but it would really be NATO versus Russia, like full out. And that is one of Russia's lines. And again, they've crossed so many of Russia's lines, and Russia has been holding back. So, Nobel Peace Prize nominee Volodymyr Zelensky has asked the West to bomb Russia while being nominated for a Global Peace Prize. So let's hear what he had to say in this video
Sure.
because, yeah.
Gotcha. I'm going to mute us up, guys. I ain't going to make that mistake again. Thank you. I know who that is. Oh, my Lord. We love you guys. Guys, remember, do us a favor. You can go over to Rokfin. You can hit the like. You can hit the share. They got some super rays coming in to help us out with this trip. You can always go to our givesendgo.com/the Convo Couch Brazil. We love you. Here's Vladimir Green Screen Zelensky asking for you know what.
Що повинно робити НАТО? Унеможливлювати застосування Росією ядерної зброї. Але, що важливо, я ще раз звертаюсь до міжнародної спільноти. Як це було до 24-го? Превентивні удари, щоб вони знали, що з ними буде, якщо вони застосують, а не навпаки. Чекати ядерних ударів Росію, щоб потім сказати, ах ти так, ну ось тримай від нас. Переглянути застосування свого тиску. Ось я вважаю, що повинна робити НАТО. Переглянути порядок застосування. Що повинно
There is Koki Smurf talking about listen, like he read a book or something. First of all, he looks like a cokehead just right there. Look at that. Tell me that guy hasn't cut up lines and just friggin', you know what I'm saying? This guy is a coke head that they put in as the head of a prison, an ex-comedian. But it's like he read a book. Oh my God, I read an article. I think we should preemptively nuke Russia. We should take that away from them, fam. We shouldn't allow them the opportunity to nuke us first. They're obviously going to do it. So, hey, West, why don't you start World War III and nuke them first? I read it in a book.
Right. So I just want to reiterate to the public, right? Because Zelensky, Ukraine has received billions of dollars, right? Okay. Flint, Michigan still doesn't have clean water. Jackson, Mississippi, we got shout out to Unholy Rome delivering water to Jackson, Mississippi. Because guess who's not doing it? The government. The government doesn't give a damn. So what? Who cares? Oh yes, activists using mutual aid to get water to Jackson, Mississippi. Meanwhile, billions are going to this dude for his mansions and his wife and the photo shoots in Vogue. And of course, we have massive energy costs and inflation in Europe, right? We have an incoming famine. Every expert is telling us, hey, there's going to be a famine, especially in developing nations in Africa, in the global south. Why? Oh, because the grain isn't getting to the poorest countries. It's going to the EU. And some members of the EU are using that grain to make some sort of gas fuel for their cars and for their homes because they can't afford it. So this whole situation is because of the sanctions that, of course, NATO and Ukraine have wanted imposed on Russia, right? And now he wants to launch these preemptive strikes in order to eliminate the possibility of a nuclear strike, which makes zero sense whatsoever. And this guy isn't even in charge. He's just a puppet, guys. He's just a puppet. And this is NATO using this guy because I don't believe for a second that Zelensky just begs and he gets what he wants. No. Let's be real here. This is NATO using Ukraine and Volodymyr Zelensky to wage war against Russia, especially because they're losing all their power, right? And in order to gain this power, they need to get rid of Russia and perhaps China. That's what we're seeing here. And I don't think they're going to do it. I think they're going to fail. and they might kill everybody in the process. So I really do think that Americans and Europeans should be out in the streets protesting. I see
into a wider horror.
Europeans protesting, but Americans I don't see. So here's Claire Daly, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry for stepping on your toes there for a second. I just wanted to say, yeah, at the end of the day, this clown is not even in charge. You know what I'm saying? And he's like, I think it was your boy Ken Klippenstein wrote an article for the Intercept the other day, trying to talk about like, oh, the intelligence community of America underestimated what Russia, how bad they really are, and now they need to take advantage of it. Like this dude, I don't think he's been in a fight in real life. He's trying to tell warmongers how they should fight a war against Russia. This is what we got right now. This is your mainstream media, ladies and gentlemen. And we did meet some Irish people, right, fam, in Sao Paulo. They were not really big fans of Claire and Mick. That's why we didn't toast with them. We just went on our way. Here's Claire. Check it out, guys.
The war in Ukraine is quickly escalating into a wider horror. And from what I can see, practically nobody in this chamber is doing anything to prevent it. In fact, most people seem to get off on the fact that it's escalating. And at this precise moment, of course, as usual, the voices challenging the rush to war are attacked and silenced, smeared as traitors, cronies, Putin puppets, Kremlin stooges, Russian agents. Frankly, it's pathetic. And I don't make the comparison lightly, but the crudeness and cynicism of these slurs coming from mainstream EU parties might as well have been written by Hermann Göring, who infamously said that even though people never want war, they can be brought to war with threats and smears. He said, all you have to do, tell them they're being attacked, denounce the pacifists for lack of patriotism and exposing their country to danger. It works the same every way. Where he led, you are following. This House should be ashamed of this debate. Words are being twisted, meaning subverted, and the truth turned on its head. Opposing the horrible madness of war is not anti-European. It's not anti-Ukrainian. It's not pro-Russian. It's common sense. The working class of Europe have nothing to gain from this war and everything to lose. And I find it laughable that those calling for arms to Ukraine never call for arms for the people of Palestine or for the people of Yemen. Unlike you, I oppose all war. I want it stopped. I make no apology for that, and I'm not going to be scapegoated and labelled for it either.
Fam. I want to marry Claire Daly. I want to marry her. I mean, she's amazing. Like, I love this woman. She is amazing. And Mick and Claire have taken this kind of stance too about the anti-war across the board, that Russia too shouldn't even, done what they did, but they haven't been that vocal about it, but they have taken that stance. And I disagree with that, but they're doing everything in their power right now to draw these parallels, to see what's going on in these other countries. I loved it when she says, I don't see you guys calling for arms to the Palestinians. I don't see you calling for arms to the Yemenis. What the hell is up with you guys? I mean, fam, she's just fire. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, she's great. And I agree with you there. I mean, I definitely think like the Russia didn't really have any other choice. And I really see this as more of a fight for their existence that they're trying to do. And in a way, they're fighting for the existence of the world into a different paradigm that's not a unilateral paradigm, right? And people are going to argue and say, well, Russia's imperialist and China's imperialist and all this. Sure, you can argue, you can make that argument, but guess what? They're not empires. They don't have the equity. You can't equate the two to the United States and what the United States has done, right? And I think there is that argument to be made, and people are going to have different takes on that. But the important thing that she said here is that it doesn't make you a Russian stooge or a Russian propagandist or anything to say we shouldn't be funding weapons to Ukraine. We shouldn't be sanctioning Russia. We shouldn't be doing any of this, because at the end of the day, this isn't going to benefit anybody, and especially the working people of the world. And I think that's an important point that she is making. You know who else?
Also, right here,
Mexican President AMLO from Alex Rubinstein reacts to EU members nominating Zelensky for the Peace Prize. How is one of the actors in the war conflict going to receive the Nobel Peace Prize? Believe it or not, common sense still prevails in many places outside of the United States and Europe. And that's because Alex is in Mexico. And of course, AMLO has been, really great on a lot of things now. And by the way, if they're nominating Zelensky, they might as well nominate Putin for a Nobel Peace Prize, but they never will because it's just how one-sided this whole thing is.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And, AMLO too, fam, I think it's safe to say that out of the gate, AMLO was kind of dragging his feet, it seemed like. A lot of people were saying, come on, what's going on? But he had to assess the situation. He had to take on the IMF, and he waited. But it seems since he's won that referendum that he took to the people, and I think this is great. When you take a referendum to the people and you say, you decide if I should stay or if I go. If you say, if more than 50% of the people say that I'm not doing a good job, I'll call snap elections and we'll do it right now. But if you say I'm doing a good job, I'm going to continue on. And that was after 3 years, after half his term. So I really like what he's doing now, fam. And I think it's awesome. And I'm glad that Alex put that out there. You put a great tweet up here. This is from the New York Times. The U.S. believes Ukrainians were behind an assassination in Russia. And they're talking about Daria Dugina, right? Or is it Dugina? How do you say it? Daria Dugin? Fam?
Yeah, Daria Dugina.
So, and you put, does anyone actually believe? Do you want to read it? Go ahead.
No, yeah, I mean, so basically they're making it sound like this is this is something new, right? First of all, everybody that's been looking at the situation from Moscow knew that this was Ukraine, that Ukraine was involved in this. However, let's not pretend that the American officials are, the biggest military and national security state apparatus is being fooled and outsmarted by Ukraine instead of the other way around, right? This is kind of like alluding to what I said about Zelensky asking and receiving all these things. Like, this isn't the United States. Oh, officials said that they didn't know that this was Ukraine, and now they're seeing, oh, this was Ukraine, that they had no idea. Do you think they had no idea, guys? Do you think that Zelensky and Ukraine, which wouldn't exist right now, Ukraine itself is a shell of a country at this moment, like they're basically sustained by NATO. Do you think that they wouldn't know, that the United States just wouldn't know that Ukraine did this? Like, I just don't buy that narrative. I definitely think the United States and NATO are leading in this. And I think they did know, and they did absolutely nothing to do anything about it. Now, some people may say they were behind it, maybe, but right now we can't prove that. You can only prove that Ukraine was involved. But, yeah.
I was just going to say, fam, I believe that, like I believe that the freaking Russians bombed their own pipeline that they could have just turned off from their own end, even though Joe Biden said they were going to stop at Victoria Nuland. I believe that, fam. I mean, yeah, how stupid do they think we are? Lord Bolton, fam, he's got something hot coming off. My new article's headline is clear. Putin must go. Now is the time for regime change in Russia. There is no long-term prospect for achieving America's critical, long-standing goal of peace and security in Europe without regime change in Russia, fam. It's always great to see John Bolton calling for peace. He's a man of peace, fam.
He just flat out just says regime change. We need regime change. That's it. And people go with it, right? So these people that are like, oh, no more war in Ukraine. The minute John Bolton goes, hey, we need to get rid of Putin. They're like, yeah, it's this whole mentality of like achieving America's critical longstanding goal of peace and security in Europe. So what does America have to do in Europe? And why does America have jurisdiction into what Russia wants? Do you see this? Get out of that mindset. America has zero jurisdiction in any stuff. And the fact it's just so ridiculous. They have no jurisdiction.
Well, what's really ridiculous to me, fam, is that they're actually calling for regime change in Russia, and they think that this is normal behavior. Like, it's okay to say this stuff. Like, it's okay to push this stuff. If there was any type of justice whatsoever, John Bolton would be inside a cell, shackled for the rest of his life, not allowed to kill himself, and may live out a life of misery for the pain and the horror and the suffering that he's caused. But yet he gets to go on there with that tweak mustache and go out and spit game. And what does the mainstream media do? They keep putting this yo-yo on again and again and again. We need to get rid of these fugazi assholes, fam, and get real journalists like Vanessa Beeley.
Yes, and I just read a comment. Please have Professor Mohammed Marandi of Tehran on the
Love
Iran.
to have him on. Would love to have
Yeah,
him on.
we'll reach out to him. Just remember his name, Pasta, because I'm bad with names.
Mohammed Marandi, I know him right away. He's been on RT plenty of times. I used to see him on Crosstalk. He was on this Crosstalk episode, fam. They took on a Saudi diplomat, right? And they had Mohammed Marandi on. And the Saudi diplomat, right out of the gate, got so pissed off. He goes, "Why are we talking to him? He's a Persian, a Persian." And Mohammed Marandi was like, "Well, you know, what your guest just said over there was kind of racist. I'll let your audience decide that." But this episode went off on Crosstalk and it got hundreds of thousands of views. It was amazing. Mohammed Marandi, University of Tehran. Guys, tweet at him. Tell him, go on the Convo Couch. Go on the Convo Couch. And then we'll try to get in touch with him and get him on next week. I'd love to have Mohammed Marandi on. Vanessa Beeley, fam, came on the morning show the other day and she talked about elections. She got to meet Eva for a little bit in that referendum. But Vanessa was able to observe an election, a referendum. And what she said right out the gate gave me so much confidence that what we heard, what was reported by Wyatt Reed to be true, is that the Russians weren't involved. Because that's the way Western media is painting it. Like the Russians came in, they ran everything, they brought people by gunpoint. If you watch, Crystal and Sagar, they're reporting from wherever they got that. They brought people from gunpoint into the booth. I mean, the fact that they would even talk about that shit is beyond ridiculous. The people of the Donbass were running the elections. The Russians were just there for security, and that's all. So the people were running it fair. And then you know what she said? It got her heart, pumping the most, fam, that she just loved the public count. She heard the public count, and she said it just moved her. And I know what that's like. In Honduras, I started to cry when they were doing the public count. Something came over me. I'm like, this is transparency here. This is democracy. This is the people's sovereignty. This is what we need. You want to read Vanessa's tweet?
We don't have.
I know. It makes me cry. From the Daily Mail, we are hunting them down and shooting them like pigs. How Ukrainians are taking brutal revenge on the collaborators who've betrayed their neighbors and country to the Russians. And you have a picture of some of these people who have been tortured, beat up, and whatnot.
The people... oh, yes, you're right. Yeah, yes.
This guy blown up in a car, this guy in prison. It's turned traitor. We saw a little thing of this this one guy who's an older guy in Ukraine. I believe it was Kharkov. I don't know the region they left, fam, where he would just run the sports center for these athletes, and the Ukrainians, the SBU, called him a pig, they used the term faggot, told him to get in the car, and they took him away. We've already seen the taping to the polls and everything, fam. It's kind of disgusting. And it's shameful what the West is doing. The West is providing cover for this brutal shit and trying to put it on Putin, but they're not. You're being exposed, plain and simple, fam. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's nothing new. The West has done this, especially the United States with Nazis. They protected Nazis for a long time. So it's no surprise on that note, right? Yeah. And I just wanted to also show that while this is still happening, while all of this is happening, while Nazis are getting awards, while they're protecting, the West is protecting them, and people are being killed. This is from Eva, who's still in the Donbass, and she said yesterday, entering Golmovsky, a village northeast of Gorlovka, targeted so heavily by Ukrainian shelling that people I met were reluctant to speak. They didn't want to stick around the town center longer than necessary and risk being shelled by Ukraine. So this is a video, and you can play it, fam, while we're there. I'm
gonna mute us though really quick first so you can hear it, guys. But thank you guys for everybody who's joined in, who supported our work. We're going over the part where Nobel Peace nominee Zelensky asked the West to bomb Russia. We're showing some of the great reporting on the ground for people like Vanessa Beeley and Eva Bartlett. This is the Convo Couch, ladies and gentlemen. If it's your first time watching, we have a lot of people watching on Rumble. When I say a lot of people, I mean 10. But thank you guys for the 10 people on Rumble watching. We're going to mute ourselves up and play this video from Eva Bartlett. Guys, you know what to do. Hit the like button. Hit the share button. We can't thank you enough. Thank you to all our moderators. You guys are amazing.
So he said, asking like, will you leave? And he said that he will not.
Никто их не звал сюда, они сами пришли. Благодаря Америке и Европе. Показать, что натворили, да? Да. Вон, тоже. Все, варвары, фашисты проклятые. Ну, зимовать будем при пленке. Стихов нет.
Fam, your thoughts on that? I mean, I'm so thankful to know Eva and Vanessa and the work they're doing on the ground. Your thoughts, fam? Go right ahead.
So this is a part of that's in the Donetsk region, right? And of course, it's still being shelled now. Again, this is a part where if this shelling continues, what is Russia going to do? That's been on the minds of people, right?
Oh yeah.
Russia going to respond? Russia has been doing a lot of intercepting of missiles to avoid this. But what she said about the city center, the town center, a lot of people stay away from that because that's what specifically Ukraine has been targeting. And of course, that's illegal because normally you're supposed to target just soldier, military weapon areas, and they're targeting civilians. So while again, people are still defending Ukraine and saying this is, they're both bad and all this stuff. It's like one side is literally murdering people, as we saw with Vanessa's tweet, for being, pro-Russian in any way that they see fit. The other side is also bombing civilian areas, houses, which, by the way, where I live in Moscow, the houses look extremely similar to that, except obviously newer and not torn down. And it's all set up from the Soviet era. So they're all very similar looking, and they look very nice and much nicer inside than on the outside. But they all have a very similar, like big window or balcony and all these units there, and then a playground at the center. It's very efficient. You can tell it's definitely from the Soviet era, though, because it's specific to that era. But it's kind of crazy seeing that these areas that look so much like parts of Moscow and parts of Russia just literally just be shelled. And I don't know. Again, just hearing the bombs in the background, right? When you're there, she's there. It's like, wow, like this is real, and she's there, and this is the kind of work that people are risking their lives to do, and of course being called all sorts of things and being put on kill lists and stuff. And so again, I hope to go to the Donbass as soon as I can. I mean, I'd have to do it on my own, but there's a lot of work going on at RT. There's a lot of things, obviously, where this whole war situation is going to need all of our attention. And I have I'm not going to not return. Like a lot of people are afraid that, oh, are you coming back? Like, because this is like the situation is escalating. I'm going back. I'm definitely going back. I'm definitely excited to go back and continue really following this closely and reporting on this and and seeing Eva. I can't wait to see Eva again. And I really commend her and everybody else that went and really saw these elections in the Donbass, because that's why these people voted to be a part of Russia, because they no longer want this to happen.